Hello and welcome back, or welcome if you're new. If you're new here, my name is Elena. I'm the homeschooling mama to 3 kiddos. Probably should have got situated before I pressed record, but apparently that's not my style. So let's get into what I read for the month of August. I'm going to pull up my Storygraph. That is where I try to track what I'm reading. Life is getting lifey right now, so I'm trying my best to get it on here. But I don't go in there and update it daily. If you're on Storygraph, I usually leave the link down below so we can become friends. If you want to do that. This is not sponsored, just a note on Storygraph. I geek out on the graphs and data that they give you. Like, I just think it's so cool. And now they have like a monthly, like the days you've read. So like I said, I did not do well on keeping my days, but they have like a really great picture graph and stuff. And so if you're not on there, I think you should check it out. It's really cool. One day I hope to get the like paid plan, but for now I'm still using the free one. But maybe I can drop some hints for like Christmas time and be like, this is what mom wants for Christmas. So let's get into August. At the time of filming, we have one more week and then August is all done. I don't know how this month, I do know how this month went so fast, because this month was a huge month of like transitioning and things that started out for us. My little man is walking through, so he's so cute. He's trying to be so quiet. Anyways, I only read, as of today, 8 books. I am currently reading another one, but I've read 8 books, and I feel like that for me wasn't a very big number. Most of them were digital books. Actually, I don't even think I finished 8 books because I have a DNF in here. Let's get into it and find out how many I read, shall we? First up was The Short Straw Bride by it's part of the Archer Brothers series. This is book number 1 in the series, and this is by Karen Whitmire. This is it's considered a historical romance. It is a clean read. It was really great. I found that I am really enjoying her writing, and as you'll see, because I know that I definitely read at least one more book by her, but I think the previous month I also started reading her books. I read one of her books and I really enjoyed her writing, and so I wanted to find other books. One, like I said, is the first in a series. I think there are 3 books, and this one follows the oldest brother, Travis Archer. The Archer brothers live on this piece of land, and they have a ranch. They have a history of not being very welcoming. So they have been kind of orphans. Their parents, I believe, died at a young age, and they had to take care of each other. There are 4 brothers, and so anybody that comes onto the land, like, people are terrified to step onto it because they've heard rumors that they'll be shot. They don't come out into the town very often. They don't socialize. They just keep to themselves, and they ask you to do the same. Keep your distance. And then enters Meredith Hayes. Meredith and the older brother Travis have accidental meeting when they're younger, and then they never see each other again. I don't even think they know each other's names at that point. She just knows he's one of the Archer brothers. And then here we are, I think it's like 14 years later, and their paths cross again when Meredith overhears someone talking about a devious plan for the Archer Brothers Ranch. And so things ensue. I don't want to give too much of the book. Meredith is slightly injured, and that at that time is seen as a flaw. And there's a person who wants to kind of take advantage of that. It's exciting all the way through. I don't normally pick up historical romance, but I really enjoyed this one. And as you can see, I think the next book I read, was the second in the series, Stealing the Preacher. This one follows another one of the brothers, and we get a little glimpse of the brother's story, what's beginning to be the brother's story in the first book. Just a tiny one though, because this one actually follows the brother Crockett, and Crockett is determined to get away and get off the ranch. The boys don't ever really leave the ranch, and so things, as they shift up in book 1, book 2 picks up on how like all that transition and shifting happen, and how that's going to affect the boys' futures in the future. How that's going to change their lives. And so I don't want to give too much of the first book away, but Crockett ends up being allowed to leave, and here he has plans. His heart is desired to be a preacher. And unbeknownst to him, there is the daughter of a sort of retired outlaw, and she dreams of getting a preacher to come to her town. And so her dad nabs Crockett and brings him to her, not knowing that her plans are to keep him there. So it's it sounds like crazy, how could this be? But really the way that it's interwoven, and again, I just really love the way she writes, that it's entertaining and it's fun, and was a great escape, which is kind of this month what I was looking for, just trying to get my mind off things. So that was a lot of fun too. And then I read A Match Made in Texas. This is a novella collection. So there are 3 short stories, or 3 or 4, because there are 4 authors listed: Carol Cox, Mary Connolly, Karen Whitmire, and Regina Jennings. And this follows 4 short stories. One of those stories is an Archer brother, and so it's labeled in the Archer Brothers series as the Archer Brothers 2.5. So I read that out too. I could tell the differences in the different authors. Sometimes when you're reading short stories and they're by multiple authors, it's similar enough that it flows a little bit more seamlessly. This one, I think I could really feel the difference in the writing. They were still great stories, still really good. Some of them, as in short stories, they just moved too quickly for me. I felt like it was less believable because it just happened so fast, like the insta-love type thing, but I get that that's what kind of has to happen in a short story. So I liked it because it filled in the blank for one of the brothers in the series I was in, but again, I'm not the biggest fan of short stories. And then I picked up, this one is labeled as Archer Brothers 2.7. So interesting that it wouldn't be like just book 3, or, because we already had 2.5, we did 2.7. That's where it's at in the series. This one is another novella, an old-fashioned Texas Christmas 2-in-1 holiday novella, and this one has 2 short stories in it, hence the 2-in-1, I guess. And this is an Archer family Christmas. So this brings all 4 boys back into the picture and shows them celebrating a Christmas. One of the brothers and his wife have a little bit of a heartache and trying to conceive and child loss. So if that is something that you're sensitive to, this may be a hard story for you to read, but it is heartwarming, brings up Archer Brothers back together, and it's just fun to see this family loyalty that the brothers have, and how they immediately welcome in the wives, and once their family, that's it, your family, and there are no further questions asked. They accept them all. And then the second story in there, A Gift of the Heart, follows a widow and who moves to a new town, and this wealthy resort owner who has, again, a disability, and that can be kind of frowned upon. In that time, it was comfortable for some people. So this one I don't think had the connection to the Archer Brothers. I don't remember it mentioning any of the brothers, but it was still a really good story, and it tugged at the back of my head, and I wonder if I have read it before, but I ended up reading it again. So if I did read it before, I didn't remember enough of it to not enjoy rereading it. Although, again, if I haven't confused you enough, I'm not sure if I did. It just tugged at my brain like, I think I've heard this story before, but it was really good. So that was it for the Archer Brothers. And then doing the 75 Soft Challenge, I've been challenging myself to read nonfiction pages, and I finished Almost Amish, One Woman's Quest for a Slower, Simpler, More Sustainable Life. This is by Nancy Sleeth. I did mention this in that series, so I will just touch briefly on it here. I enjoyed this book. I said it before, I know that the reviews were like that she was giving too much homage, or too much credit to the Amish. Like, people felt like maybe there was this expectation to live up to, but I didn't feel that way at all. I just felt like she was sharing her story and about how she takes their values and is applying them to her life, but she herself is not Amish. And so this was just a fun read. It kind of read, I not quite as a biography, but similar in the way that she was just expressing her personal stories and how she could see these values being played out in her life and those closest to her. The book that I DNF'd was Year of No Sugar. This is by Eve O. Schaub. This one follows a family who quits eating sugar for a year. And while I think it would be interesting to read, at this moment in my life, I'm still eating sugar and I have no desire to pause that. I think at one point it might be like kind of cool to see if I could try, but because we're in a big transition, I was like, oh no, I don't want to read about how horrible it is for me and give me one more thing to kind of like build anxiety over. So I was like, let's put a pause in this. I think I'll come back to it, but not this month. So I went ahead and just marked it as a DNF. Next up was The Amish Sweet Shop. Now you're gonna see these last two books were like Amish August, because I find that those are like comfort reads for me, especially the ones that I read are like Amish romance. Is that an actual genre? I don't know. We're gonna coin it if it is, because I know they have like Amish thrillers, I think, even, and things like that, but I am not, that's not my kind of books. I don't like thrillers, I don't like scary, I don't like horror. I just kind of feel like this world gets scary enough that I don't want to take my time out and read it in a book. So I read The Amish Sweet Shop, again, for not liking short stories. I believe this is another set. It is, of short stories. I read quite a few this month. This one, again, you can really feel the difference in the authors. Some of them I liked the writing. Some of them was okay. I hate to say I don't like it. Maybe I would like a longer story from them. Short story, I don't know. I couldn't, the dialogue was a little, I don't even know the right word. I don't want to say cheesy, because in Amish romance, their dialect is different than everyday, I guess, modern common English. I'm not sure what to call it, but they're different words because the language from where it roots from. But I don't know if I just felt like some of the stories were trying to blend them too much and it didn't work out well for me, or I was just reading one style and then because they're short stories and then switching quickly to a different author. I don't know if that's why I couldn't get behind it, but some of them were a little bit tougher for me. Ones that I did enjoy. The first story, The Swedish Courtship, that was by Emma Miller. That was a great, cute story. Jacob Beachy is 36 and he is still a bachelor, and his mom wants him to be married and give her grandbabies. And so she is trying to set him up, but he is just not happy about it. So we get to follow him. They own a candy shop. Endearing, sweet story. Get it? Okay. The next one, The Sweetest Truth. This was by Laura Bradford. This one was one that was a little bit tougher for me to read. Sadie Fisher has accepted she'll never marry. She has scars from a barn fire, and she just cannot accept that anybody would think that she is pretty anymore and want to choose her as a wife. I think that this story could have been much longer, so maybe that's where I was having trouble with it, is that I just felt like it was a lot to throw into a short story. I think it could have been a whole book, because the feelings just rapidly change, and yeah. I think I've gone over why that's a little difficult for me. I like books in a series because I like to be in that world for a while, and that's probably why short stories are kind of difficult for me, because it's just too quickly in and out. But I had this book on my like to be read for a while, so it was available and I picked it up. The last one is Nothing Tastes So Sweet. This is by Mary Alice. This follows Hannah, who is pregnant and then suddenly widowed. And this one as well, there was a lot packed in the ending. Like the last two chapters, like things just happened immediately. And again, this could just be a short story, like what you have to do. So people who love short stories, you may be like yelling at the screen like that's what it's supposed to be, and maybe it is. So that's probably why short stories aren't my jam, even though I read like what, three short story books, novellas, 3 of them this month. And then the last one I just finished up is Abraham, the Petersham brothers. This is book number 2. Not sure why I didn't pick up book number 1 first, but I didn't. But you can pick it up out of order because I was able to read it and understand the story just fine. So this follows another brother. There are, again, a family of brothers, and then we're going to follow, I'm assuming, each brother's story in each book. This one follows the brother Abraham. The brothers have a peanut butter business, and this world is the same world as ones that I read last month. Last month I read the Honey Bee Sisters, that trilogy. And so this is in that same world. And so you do get a mention of the aunt that's in the Honey Bee Sisters and a little bit of the drama that happened in that series in this one. And so I really love that there is all these connections and you could follow like in the whole world together. And so I probably will pick up the next book, but I haven't yet. And I'll get to that in a second, but let me finish telling you about Abraham. Abraham is one of the brothers. He's very shy, like painfully so. He has a little bit of, it feels like this like immense self-doubt. He always feels like he doesn't have anything worthy to say, or whatever he says is going to sound dumb, so he just stays quiet. And because of that, it is really difficult for him to meet a girlfriend or wife. His brother has gotten married. That would be like the first story that I skipped over. But his brother has gotten married, and it's triggered some emotions in him where he's beginning to believe like he would like a wife and a family one day, but he's not quite sure how to get there because he is so painfully shy. Enter in Emma, who is this really popular Amish girl, very pretty. All the boys seem to want to be her boyfriend. And Emma is enjoying that time of her life where she is not attached to any one person and can kind of just flirt around and talk with the guys. There are 2 adorable little brothers, Abraham's little brothers in here, and they are scheming in the background because their bedroom is in the cellar and they need to get these older brothers moved out so they can move in to one of their bedrooms because they don't want to be sleeping in the cellar anymore. They're adorable. They're 9-year-olds. Their hearts are in the right place, but they are 9. And so there's a lot of mischief in there, which is kind of fun to read. Some of it you're like, oh my. But it's fun to read, and the mom in this book is, I found myself nodding along with her. At one point she tells her son, I don't ever ask you for anything, and he starts listing off all the chores that she asked him to do, and she tells him in response, well, I give birth to you and you can never thank me enough for that. And I was like, yeah, seriously. So it was cute. I liked it, much like Aunt Bitsy in the Honey Bee Sisters. I felt like the mom character in here was also kind of a good little relatable character. She was fun. And especially the way that she has all boys, so her trying to wrangle in her boys and be firm with them, but at the same time she is the mom. So there's that soft side to it as well. Abraham and Emma, this is who we follow in the story. Cute story. Partway through, I will say, Emma was like really working my nerves. I felt like she was being completely blind. I felt like she was being selfish, but we go through that and she processes through it kind of quickly, as you will in the stories, but at the end, knowing how Abraham feels for her, you're glad for them. So that was that book. My current read, the only reason that I haven't picked up the next book in that is because Rocky Road by Becky Wade has been on hold. I've had the digital hold at my library for quite some time, and it finally became my turn. My library acquired another copy and they were like, now you can have a turn. So I picked up that book and that's what I'm reading right now. I just started it yesterday though. If I finish it, I will add it in here. So I did end up finishing Rocky Road, Sons of Scandal. That's part of the series. It is the second book in it, and this one follows the brother from the first book. The first book was Memory Lane by Becky Wade, and I read that a couple months back. Rocky Road was equally as good. I want to say from remembering, I think that I liked Memory Lane just a smidge better, but I really like Becky Wade like so many others. She just has a great style of writing, and I think I was ready to step away from the Amish reads just for a moment and go back into a more contemporary read, and this was just perfect for it. Her book always, well, I don't know if always, but these two books have a little bit of a mystery to them as well. So it keeps you turning the page, not just for the romance and the fun banter, but for the mystery as well. For some weird reason, if you've not heard of this, I will give you the small synopsis. It follows FBI agent Jude Camden, and he handles his job with by the book professionalism. So he's going undercover, and things tangle up while going undercover. Cute story, cute read. There's like a fake dating romance in there. There is some miscommunication a little bit. I feel like maybe it could have been explained away earlier, but for whatever reason it's not. In the end though, all the secrets come out, all the answers are there. It was a great read. And then I picked up, I don't know if I mentioned it in this. If I did, I'll just skip over this part. But if I didn't, I picked up the Huckleberry Hill. This is a really long series. There are quite a number of books in here. The Matchmakers of Huckleberry Hill is the series name. And looking on Storygraph, there are 12 books in the series. So I actually picked up the first two. I read the first one, Huckleberry Hill. That one at one library, the digital read, it was on hold. I would have had to wait a few weeks for it, but I was able to find it. I do have an old library card that I still have access to, and it was on that one, and I didn't have to wait. So I picked that one up because we're reading a lot of digital books right now because we're in the midst of doing moving, packing, all the things. So I read this one. This was a really sweet book. There's a very enduring set of grandparents, and the grandma wants to match make up her grandchildren. And so she finds in the very first book, we meet her first grandson, or we meet the first one that she's going to kind of set up. Her first one that she wants to set up is her grandson Moses. Moses is very tall, as are his brothers, and his family tend to be, but he's quiet. He is waiting for a girl who has left the community. He believes that she will return, and so he just has his heart set on her, and he is waiting for her to return. She has kind of, I don't think she's jumped the fence is what they call when they left, like, forever, but she's living in the English world, and she's kind of stringing him along, saying to wait for her, that eventually she'll be ready to come back, and that she knows he'll be there waiting for her. Everybody else feels like Moses has waited enough, and he needs to just move on with his life. Enter Leah Shetler. Leah Shetler is who the grandma brings over, who is also a really tall girl. Leah has a sister, Rachel, who is seen as the pretty one, and Leah is kind of just seen as the one who will grow older and take care of her parents, because surely Rachel will be married off. Leah is tall, and because she's so tall, no boy will ever want her. This book, there are some super frustrating parts in it, particularly the way that Leah's father treats Leah and the things said to her. Her sister Rachel is also very hurtful and very selfish, and she does come around a little bit, but those parts were, I see why in the storyline, but then as we keep going into it, I just was like so mad at the sister for being so hurtful. I was so mad at the dad for just being so mean, and then also a little bit at Leah, that Leah could not find her voice and just kind of speak up for herself. Now eventually in the book, she does learn a little bit to speak up for herself, but I don't want to give too much away. It was a fun, clean read. The second one in the series is called Huckleberry Summer. You would think after the grandparents get involved with one, that the grandfather is like, no more, we're not going to set up any more of our grandkids, but the grandma's not hearing any of it. She's going to do what she's going to do, and she feels like she's going to set up the next grandchild. Her next grandchild, Aiden, is seen as somewhat of a troublemaker. He has been arrested, which is not the norm in Amish life, and he's also a vegetarian, which is not the norm in Amish life. So he's kind of seen as a little bit weird. And he's been arrested a couple of times, and so that's why he's kind of seen as a troublemaker. But we learn why he's arrested in each one of them, and it's not always what it seems to be. Enter in his match that his grandmother thinks, Lily Eicher. Lily is this sweet, soft-spoken, quiet girl who wants nothing more in her life but to please her father. This book, again, I started to get really frustrated, but not with so much Lily's family. Well, Lily's dad was aggravating. He was coming from a very hurt place, and why he is trying to contain Lily and take care of her, and in his world, I think why he's trying to protect her, he doesn't always go about it in the right way. He's kind of really blind on some things, but Lily also, I felt like I was really frustrated with Lily towards the end of the book, because she does this complete part where she turns her back on someone, and it just felt so wrong. She doesn't really even realize, like, she doesn't, I don't know, in her, the way that the character is speaking, she truly has convinced herself that this is the right way to act, and that she has no part in it whatsoever. And it was just really kind of aggravating to read. There is a turning point, but again, I felt like that the hers arc especially came about too quickly, and I just felt like she could have sat with that, and maybe we could have delved into that a little bit deeper with her realizing the hurtful things she said and did. But it was still a good book. The grandparents are sweet, endearing. The grandfather in particular in both books has like just great wisdom that he passes on. So I added those two books to the month of August as well. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, letting me chat about books with you. Let me know if you've read any of these. Let me know if you know Amish romance. Is that a thing? Is that a genre? Did I make that up? Anybody else reading it? Let me know. Thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate you being here.